Alright, in this section 4.6, we're looking at proving triangles congruent part 2. We're going to build on what we learned from the last section as far as what parts are needed in order to prove that two triangles are congruent. Don't forget, congruent means same size and same shape. Alright, and the theorems that we looked at last time were side, 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 angle, side, angle, side, angle, 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 side. Some of the key points were side, side, side is easy to recognize. Side, angle, side, you've got to have the included angle, and we talked about that. Angle, side, angle, meaning you have to have the included side. We also discussed what that meant. And remember, angle, angle, side was the trickiest because there are two non-included sides, and you've got to make sure you have the corresponding or the matching non-included side on each one. Okay, the other thing, also just to kind of recap, we talked about unmarked things that count. In other words, sometimes you may just see two things marked, but remember there are some unmarked things that you got to be aware of, like reflexive sides would count as a congruent piece to both triangles, and vertical angles, okay, would be considered another unmarked thing that would count as a congruent angle. Okay? All right. Now, there's one more theorem that we're going to add to it, and that's the hypotenuse leg theorem. Remember, in a right triangle, the two sides that are connected to the 90 degrees, those are the legs, and the side that's across from the 90-degree angle is your hypotenuse. Okay, so the hypotenuse is always across from the 90. Okay, so we need to make sure we understand those parts so that we can understand hypotenuse leg. All right, so in the hypotenuse leg theorem, okay, so what you've got is as long as you have the hypotenuse and a leg matching, then that's enough to say that these two triangles are congruent by hypotenuse leg. All right, so again, if the hypotenuse matches, okay, and one of the legs match, and this is only for a right triangle, hypotenuse leg, right? If those two pieces match, that's enough also to say that the triangles are congruent. All right? And so what you might be asking yourself is, well, how come this pattern works for a 90-degree triangle? Because side, side, angle was not one of our original theorems that we looked at, right? And so how come it works for a 90-degree triangle and not any other, or not all triangles, in other words? All right? And so here's the reason. So with this pattern, all right, so side, side, angle, okay, here's the deal. Okay, it has to do with the fact that with this 90-degree angle, you've locked this side into place. All right, so in other words, what we mean by that is this. Okay, I can take this side if this wasn't locked down at 90 degrees, all right, and I could move it, say, over here to this side, where if, like for example, if I had a certain length here, right, and it was, let me draw it like this. If I had angle, angle, side, and let's say that this was the side that I wanted right here, and this is the angle that I wanted. All right. If I had this side, say that was a length of 8, and it was coming this way, okay, let's say this has a length of 8. Well, I could swing this thing back this way, give it a length of 8. All right. Still have this side the same length, say 10, and still be 10, and swing it back to where this angle matches and this angle matches, and so this is still side, side, angle, right? Okay, side, side, angle, but these two triangles are obviously not congruent, right? And so since you're able to swing this side over to here and swing it back over to here, that allows you to get two triangles that are not congruent. But with this 90 degrees locked in here, right, if that angle is locked in at 90 degrees, then you don't have the ability to be able to swing that thing and get two different triangles out of it with the same length, with this side being the same length. Because see now, with this being 90 degrees, okay, you can't swing this through and get a different triangle, because if you swing it back all the way over to here, then even though you flipped it, you still got the same triangle. Alright? So that's kind of the reason why. It works for a right triangle and not any other. Okay? Alright, so again, just like in the last section, we were looking at different problems, except now, in addition to the 4 that we looked at last time, we have one more to add to it. Now the only time you will use this, of course, is if you've got two right triangles. If you don't have right triangles, then it's not going to be hypotenuse leg. Alright, so we're going to see if we have enough information to tell whether these triangles are congruent. Okay, and so now on this one, and the top triangle I have a side and an angle. In the bottom triangle I have a side and an angle. Now I've only got 2 pieces. Remember, you need at least 3 unless you've got a right triangle, but then again you still would have the 90 degrees, which would count as an angle, I guess. But anyway, you can't do hypotenuse leg without a hypotenuse and without a right triangle. Alright, so again, remember, we're supposed to look for unmarked things that count. I've got a reflexive side here, okay, because remember, if it shares a side, then you have a reflexive side. If it shares a point, you've got vertical angles. Alright, so now what have we got on top? The pattern we have on top is side, angle, side. It's the included angle. The pattern that we have on the bottom is side, side, angle. You don't have the included angle on the bottom triangle. The included angle in the bottom triangle would be here. And so since that's the case, the patterns don't even match. Okay, they've got to at least match to have a chance. So this one we cannot say is congruent. Okay. So again, this is the angle that we would need to have side angle side. Okay. All right, next one. Okay, I've got mark here, and here. So I have 2 things that are marked. Remember, we got to look for unmarked things that count. Since it's connected here by a vertex, we know that this angle is congruent to this angle, so that's the unmarked thing that counts, the vertical angles here. All right, so we go ahead and draw that in. Now on the right or the left-hand triangle, I've got side, angle, side. It is the included angle. Here I've got side, angle, side. And so since that's the pattern for both of them, that's going to be my answer, side, angle, side. All right. Okay, here's the next one. Once again, they are connected by a side. I'll go ahead and mark that as a reflexive side. Okay. And so now that I have the reflexive side marked, let's see what we've got. Okay, on the bottom triangle, I have an angle, and a side. It is a non-included side, so angle, angle, side. On the top, I have angle, angle, side, and it is a non-included side. All right, because the included side would be here in the top triangle and here in the bottom triangle. Remember, the included side, the endpoints of the included side should be the vertices of the 2 angles that you have marked. All right, so non-included side, but remember what we said with angle, angle, side. You've got to make sure you have the corresponding non-included side. How do we do that? We look at the angle that's across from the side. The angle across from this side has 1 mark. The angle across from this side has 1 mark. It is the corresponding non-included side. So we're going to write our answer as angle, angle, side. That's the pattern. Okay. What about this next one? Okay, I see a common side. We're going to mark that as reflexive. All right, so now let's look at our pattern. All right, on the left-hand triangle, it is side, side, angle. On the other side, it's side, side, angle. But side, side, angle is not one of our theorems. All right, so we're going to say this one is not congruent. Okay, we don't have enough information to say that it's congruent. Doesn't fit one of our patterns. All right, what do we have on the next one here? Let's take a look. Okay, so once again, I've got a reflexive side. I'll go ahead and mark it. Okay, and so now from here on the left-hand triangle, I've got 2 angles and a side. It is the included side, so we can say that this pattern is angle, side, angle, but is the other one the same pattern? two angles and an included side. It's angle, angle, side, angle, angle, side for both of them. And so since the pattern matches on both triangles, angle, side, angle is going to be the correct answer here on this one. Alright? So again, it's just about your ability to be able to recognize whether or not you have the pattern of one of the theorems that we've looked at or not. Okay, what about this one? Again, I have an unmarked thing that counts, which is here. I'll go ahead and mark this reflexive side. Now let's take a look at what we've got. Well, we've got side, side, angle. But remember, these are two right triangles, so hypotenuse leg is a possibility. Let's see if that's what we've got. All right, and so I've got a hypotenuse here and here, and then I have a reflexive leg that matches. So this one is actually hypotenuse leg. All right, and so there you go. There's your answer. And so also with this right triangle, here's another thing. I know hypotenuse leg is the theorem, but imagine if I had this. Imagine if it wasn't this side that was marked. Say we didn't know this was marked. But what if my mark was down here on the other leg? What would we say then? Alright. Now it doesn't fit hypotenuse leg, so you might be saying, well, it's not going to be congruent. But it would be congruent. Still, the triangles would be congruent because you may not have hypotenuse leg, but you've got side, angle, side. So really, if two sides of a right triangle match, then you got it. You'd have hypotenuse leg or you'd have side, angle, side. In either case, you would have two congruent triangles. All right? So there you go. Okay, so with that, once again, that's just more practice in determining whether triangles are congruent. Plus, we added hypotenuse leg to it. And so now we've just got more practice on identifying these things, and then you should be ready now for your quiz.